Welcome to Listed Live. It's about to be on and popping today. We have Big Ced from Black Enterprise and we have Jay.
Hey, you already know.
Jonathan will be on in a little bit. Kelly is not in today. We're waiting for Sue. So we're just we're gonna wing it today. But thank you again, Big Ced, for gracing us with your presence again. I'm a fan, so thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. We really do appreciate having you on. Let's get into it. Let's not hesitate. It's an honor to have you. Seriously, your resume, your LinkedIn profile precedes you. So, I was listening to your podcast a few days ago with Tony Mattingly. So that was pretty good. Yes, I do my research. I do my research. But before we get into anything serious, I have a really very important question to ask you. Earth, Wind, and Fire or mint condition?
Depends on the mood.
Oh, I like that. Okay. That's a nice diplomatic answer, though, sir.
Yeah, he want to show no toes with that one.
It depends, Sometimes you need that old school feeling, so you definitely got to go with Earth, Wind, and Fire. With the mint condition, you definitely love the ballads and the aspect that they bring. So it's like, depends.
Right, it depends. Right. Today's the 21st of September. You know how social media is. It's all over now. Yeah. Every time that happens, that song is being played. They're probably even being played in white stores.
For sure.
That is a good answer because mint condition is, they're like they came from Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah. So, you can't deny them regardless. Can't deny them.
And they're a band, which I love. They're absolutely a band. So when I was listening to one of your podcasts and you mentioned something about having a short attention span in regards to readers these days. Right. And how you do everything on a positive note because, you stand by everything that you publish and that you write.
Yes.
Where did you come up with that? Because I heard you say you don't have to worry about no one coming from you.
Yeah.
It's from my upbringing. My mother and father taught us moralistic values as opposed to materialistic values. And growing up in New York City, the time I grew up, like the city was at its worst as far as crime, grime, and everything else. So it's like you had to be on your P's and Q's. And I think that even back then, like I have friends who I grew up in a middle class neighborhood, so I can never come on that I grew up in the projects or I grew up on hard times. No, I've never had a night where I've gone to bed hungry or anything of that nature. So, but I have people who felt that being Black means you have to have some type of negativity in your life or to be accepted. And I'm totally against that because I didn't come from a negative background. And I understand that even family members, cousins, close friends who did come up in that type of environment, I think it's kind of unfair to always show the negative of what Black people are or the upbringing and not show the positive without it being some type of fairy tale or some type of dream that somebody concocted, because it's true. Like I said, growing up middle class, like I'm literally in the middle. Not so poor that I didn't have anything, but not rich where I couldn't get everything. So my mother and father, they taught us everything moralistically, where, treat people correctly, things of that nature, where so anything that I did was always on the up and up. And I saw the negativity, but never wanted to be involved. I just kept that mindset. And even when I got into journalism, where shock value is always a thing, my thing was always being honest and just being myself and giving people what I feel they want. And if they don't want it, then they're not my audience. I don't have to have the highest numbers or the best numbers in order to get an audience, because if people don't pay attention to me, then you know what? People don't pay attention to me. But I'm not going to be somebody that I'm not, so that way they can pay attention. I hope I answered the question.
No, you did. Thank you. We have Razoo here. That's one of our other co-hosts. So thank you, Razoo, for coming on. But that's
glad to meet you.
You're late
to this.
You're late.
And then we have Sue.
You're
Sue. Hey, Sue. There's Sue also. Welcome. Now you did answer that because it's funny because when you think about Black enterprise, as Rosin and I discussed earlier, that was a staple in our household. And I heard this was your third time writing with them now.
Yeah,
So
this is my third go round.
You go around. What is so different? I know Tony asked you that in this podcast. What is different? I guess tell our viewers what is different this time around. Besides the 200, making sure the attention span thing. Because really, I have a 26-year-old and a 10-year-old, and her attention span of reading articles are just like about that much.
When you say different, do you mean as far as my involvement? Or
yes, with your involvement, do you now just pick and choose? I did hear you say that some things they come at you with, and you're like, no, I'm not with that. I'm not going to do it. So you pretty much have paid the cost to be the boss in that aspect, right?
Well, I mean, I think the great thing that over my writing career is that when I started the industry cosign 17 years ago, I did what I wanted to do, and it worked where all the other publications I ended up working with hired me based on what I did for my own site. The Source, Black Enterprise, Vibe, whoever I worked with, Interactive One, they hired me based on what the type of things that I was doing. So I think that the people that hired me entrusted me in the content choices and the direction that I would go in. So even today, working at Black Enterprise, they do send me stories to write as far as daily news. But when it comes to like interviews or particular things that I write, it's basically my picking and my choosing, because I do get pitched. I literally get several hundred emails a day, and
wow.
I have a very, 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 very vast network of people that I've encountered over the years, where I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but I might be 2 or 3 people away from anybody within the industry. Mm-hmm. And I don't say that to brag, but just knowing the type of people that I came up with and them elevating themselves and then connecting with other people makes it easier for me to get to people. Now, there's some people I can get to faster than others. But of course, if I had to get to Michael Jackson, even though he's passed away, I feel like I can get to him. Mm-hmm. But of course, that's not going to happen.
Right. Let me do a seance. Let me know we can do a seance so we can get to Michael Jackson.
Yeah, but that's my mindset when I do things, and I think that's the reason why some of the people I work with trust that if I'm able to do something, or if I say I'm going to do something, even if I don't, they know the effort is going to be placed into it. So.
Wow.
I think that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you so much. What was it? I'm gonna let my co-host ask you some questions. What was it like working for Black Planet? I remember when Black Planet first came out. I was chatting like I didn't have any. Back in '95, there was a website called WBS, and then Black Planet came along after WBS left, and so I was like one of the first machines on Black Planet, and so I would read all the articles because I was in school. I was in school for journalism. And we would read all these articles and stuff like that. How was that? Because that was still brand new, back in '99 ish. How was that working for them? I know I'm too, right?
Well, you have to remember, Black Planet was literally the first social network.
Black Voices.
Before MySpace, before Friendster, before Facebook. So it was definitely interesting living during that time. So when I was presented the opportunity to actually work at Black Planet, I'm like, nobody fucks, excuse my language, nobody messes with Black Planet anymore. Black Planet is like this, that, and the other. But for me, one of the things was Black Planet was a staple when it comes to social media and people meeting people online. And there's a lot of Black people, well, I should say older Black people, maybe even younger, because the site is still there. But there are a lot of people who can say that they've had a lot of adventures on Black Planet. And then
I'm saying that and Black Voices, for real, Black Planet and Black Voices were like, oh my gosh. If the God, social media is not the way it was. Black Planet and Black Voices, oh my gosh. Terrible.
Yeah,
catfish, for real.
And knowing that Radio One actually owned it, and like they had created the company Interactive One, which I think is I1 now or Next One, whatever they are now, but to actually work within that structure to like reintroduce Black Planet, so to speak. It was interesting because one, I remembered Black Planet, so it wasn't like I was somebody that came out of nowhere and didn't know the history of Black Planet. I was, as a matter of fact, when I got to Black Planet, my old profile was still there because it's not like they change up or they delete or whatever. So I was able to, because in the back end they were able to revive it, and I was able to get my profile back. Of course, I've updated it, but just working with them. And before I worked at Black Planet, I didn't know until after I worked there that a lot of even before that, because of the industry cosign and where I worked before, I had a lot of connections with celebrities and executives. So one of the things Black Planet wanted to do was reintroduce it, but also bring in celebrities and other people to make it look like it's the place to be. So my relationships with artists have always been solid. So I was able to bring artists back that was like, why would I mess with Black Planet? It's like, because I'm there. Okay, so it would work, and it worked in my favor, and even getting interviews and things of that nature, because they had other websites, News One, Urban Daily, Hello Beautiful, and Elevate, if I'm correct, were the verticals. But yet when I did the interviews for Black Planet, I would, like, depending on who it is, go to the editors of the other sites and be like, hey, I have so-and-so coming in, so why don't you have a conversation? So that way, for the artists, they get a chance to actually talk to 4 different outlets at the same time in one city, as opposed to just coming in just for Black Planet because of my relationship. So it definitely worked out in that aspect. And I was happy to work there because, it was an honor to be working with such a property that had, like I said, was before Facebook and MySpace and all these other social media sites, even before it was called social media. So I enjoyed it.
For sure.
Yeah, it's totally different. All right, you guys, you got any questions for Big Ced?
Yeah.
Well, don't be shy.
Well, I'm in Atlanta.
You're nervous. I hear you.
Look who I'm talking to. I'm in Atlanta, and Black Enterprise used to have a building here. And when the building was no longer had their name on it, I'm like, no, I mean, I literally was like sad. I'm like, because like Rashida, I know she told you, Black Enterprise is up there with Ebony and Jed and all the, very esteemed in the Black community. So I always had pride in going past that Black Enterprise building. So you're in New York. You work out of New York. Is that where you're based out of?
Yeah, I work from home because
okay.
I actually freelance for Black Enterprise.
Okay,
but as I said, I worked there 2 times previously, and I'm back. And actually, this month makes 2 years I've been back since.
Oh wow! Okay.
They brought me back, and our numbers are at the best it's ever been.
Wow.
And I'm going to take credit for that. But I remember.
For sure.
I think this is the 50th year. Yeah. I remember growing up that Black Enterprise was definitely, I'd never even thought about getting into journalism at all. I had no interest whatsoever. I was a musician. I was a singer. I was a songwriter. So that was my thing. But when a friend had suggested that I write, and I started writing for other publications, by the time, one of my friends, actually a friend of mine who started with my site at the Industry Cosign, worked with me at Interactive One, Black Planet. He left and he started working at Black Enterprise. So when they needed a writer, he came and approached me. And Black Enterprise was actually the first company, the first industry company that I had to interview for. Every job I had previously was like, hey, come work over here. Or somebody's like, yeah, we need you to work over here. So I never had to interview. So the fact that I had to interview for Black Enterprise, I was like, okay. And I hadn't had a job interview in years because I didn't have to. I was working. Right. I had my own job. I was doing parties, so I never had to interview. So I went into the interview, and the lady interviewed me, and she was asking me questions, and I just wasn't prepared. So she's like, "You're not really prepared, right?" I said, "No, I'm not." So she actually, but for whatever reason, she's like, I guess in part because of the person that brought me on, and I guess my resume. Like, she's like, well, you know what? I'm not going to bring you on as staff, but you can freelance. In the meantime, we'll see. So I freelanced and immediately made an immediate impact. I said immediately made an immediate impact, but y'all know that.
We're family. You're good.
And immediately made an impact, and things came up, and I think I only worked there like 7 months, and then stopped working with them. And then about maybe a year later, somebody else came to the department to run the department. My friend that brought me in the first time still worked there. He got promoted, and then the guy that's running the department, came. Once again, I interviewed. I think I was better prepared this time. So I went to the interview, but the good thing about this time is that he's like, I know you work. I know what you did. I know what you did last time you were here. This is that and others. So I really didn't have. It wasn't an interview. It was more of a conversation.
Right.
So I was happy with that because I had already proven myself at Black Enterprise because I was I got the most traffic while I was there for the 7-8 months that I was there. So it's not like I was coming in like who are you? So that second time, I think I worked in the office. I was actually an employee, and I worked in the office maybe about 6 or 7 months.
Okay.
And then they got rid of me, so that, not going to go into it.
Right.
I'm just going to say it's not my fault because they couldn't watch me. Now let me stop.
But like you're good now though, right?
Yeah. Now that was about 9 years ago. So, Black Enterprise is at many places I've worked, Black Enterprise is the most prestigious company on my resume. I've always stated that. I worked for less to work at Black Enterprise, not because of the pay, but because it was Black Enterprise. And that's what I came up on as far as Black entrepreneurship and Black business and things of that nature. And to be a part of that is definitely something that I can be proud of, even if it wasn't for a long time. So 2 years ago, I forgot his exact title, but the VP of something at Black Enterprise now, we worked together at Interactive One. His name is Justin Barton. So he actually worked with me. He knew me, knew my work. And over the years, of course, I still did my website. I freelanced, I did whatever. So I just kept myself busy. So at the time he approached me, he was like, actually, he approached me to make an announcement that he was going to Black Enterprise on my website, the industry cosign. So I did that. And then about a month later, he approached me. He says, how would you feel about, writing for Black Enterprise again? And I'm like, well, how they feel about me writing for Black Enterprise? But he was definitely, I appreciate the fact that he approached me. And I said to him that to reward him for bringing me back, I'm going to make sure that that's the best move he ever made. And whatever he had to do in order to elevate his status, I'm going to be, if not the reason, part of the reason. Right. So immediately when I first got back, I had it, like I said, I had written there for like 9 years, and protocols and things changed. And one of the editors there, I don't think that she liked either me or whatever it was. I didn't feel like she wanted me there or didn't care for me being there. It didn't matter to me. I'm like, I'm here to do a job. And I'm like, my job is to make Black Enterprise matter and make Black Enterprise the best that it can be. Right. So it was a bumpy start because it's like, okay, let me get back. And once I got back, I haven't stopped. And for the past 2 years, I can safely say that I've been the top producer there. And I will continue to be the top producer there because of my mindset of wanting to be the best. And I've always lived to that because my mother, I have 2 brothers. She taught me and my brothers growing up, you have 2 things, your name and your word. I don't want anybody to ever say anything against my name. I mean, unless of course it's true. If it's true, I'll even admit it. Right. But I want it to be that even if I'm not the best, I tried my best. So I put forth that effort, and I think it's worked out for Black Enterprise in a great way. Last month was the biggest traffic that we've ever had in the history of Black enterprise. And I can safely say without boasting that there's nobody in this world that has garnered more traffic than I have for blackenterprise.com.
Well, that's awesome.
And I think that for the next 5 years, if I stop, no, I'm not gonna say that. I don't want to get beside myself. But
you garnered a lot of traffic.
No, but the thing is, and the reason why is like I like to. I've always been the type that I've always been humbled by situations, but then recently people have been telling me you have to accept whatever accolades that are thrown at you or you're acknowledged for, because if you don't, who will? And I'm not saying it in a way to try to up myself, but it's just factual. So I do pride myself on being at the top of whatever it is. And I've always, and I've told Justin before, if I'm the worst person on your team, you've got a great team. It's really that simple, because I'm always going to put forth the best effort so that way I can be part of a winning team. So that's why I have the mindset that I have, where it's like, I'm writing about things that I don't care about writing about. And I'm not saying about what it is, but my thing has always been sports entertainment. I also write current news. I've done interviews with people in the scientific field and the medical field, and I'm like, oh, yawn, whatever. But it's part of the job, and if I can do it, I'll do it. And I have no qualms of doing it because it is part of my job, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
So,
that's cool.
That's
Now
what's
I have a question.
Yes.
Well, I really like your site, the industry cosigns.
Yes.
I love it.
Me too.
I love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's very informative. You have all the latest stories and informative, not only entertainment, but business. And very, very entertaining and informative. So
I try. Yeah. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Wait, she's gonna finish. I want her to finish praising me first. Go ahead. No,
So I'm a red carpet host, interviewer. So I know how you feel, but I have what is your biggest memory of the story you've done and interesting things that stick with you, and how does it impact you, or does it impact you at all?
Well, it's funny when you mention red carpet, because I hate red carpet. Red carpet is like if you want me to do a red carpet, then that means you don't want me to work. Why
is that?
I always hated red carpet because, being a smaller outlet, going against Billboard magazine and going against going against these bigger magazines, and I'm the industry cosign, some artists are not going to respect me or my outlet as much as the others, which is understandable. And it's funny because at the same time, I've done the industry cosign nonstop for the past 17 years. So when I worked at The Source, Vibe, and all these other companies, I was still the industry cosign. But when people see that I'm connected with a brand and I understand it, then the respect is given a little more. I get it. But I just hated the shuffling for position and only being allowed to speak to somebody for 14 seconds when the person next to me, who's not even a tenth of a journalist I am, gets 20 minutes because they work for Time magazine or whatever. And like I said, I get the politics of it, but I just hated it so much that even when I'm invited to red carpet, I just say no. People are like, oh, no, I just don't want to do it. So, but to answer your question, I mean, over the course of almost 20 years, it's kind of hard.
Is there one that stick out to you the most?
I've had so many where I've been, and that's why I'm lucky and I appreciate every opportunity I've had, because there are so many that I'm trying to think. Obviously something doesn't stick out, because if it did, I would have said it already. I mean, having a conversation with Ice Cube years ago at a presser, knowing that even though we're the same age, and watching him come up from NWA to become a Hollywood executive, and me drinking St. Ides only because Ice Cube endorsed it, so it's like to have a face-to-face, it's like, wow. Ludacris is a great interview because Ludacris may have been the most professional person I've ever met. Not only was he early for the interview, he had food. He stopped offered me some of his food and said he'll stop
Cool.
like to get the interview. And I'm like, no, I appreciate this. Finish your food. You know, this, that, and the other.
Right.
But to get that when most artists have this chip on their shoulder, and that brings me to Jermaine Dupri. When I was working at Impact Magazine, we had the interview set up. They contacted me to do an interview. I had this mindset that my time is more valuable than yours. And the reason why I have that mindset is because if you don't value my time, why should I value yours? And people don't get that. It's a back and forth thing, and a lot of artists and even executives, they get into the mindset of like, luckily for me, I haven't had to pursue anybody or anything because I've always done my own thing. And I've always had a strong network, even once I got in the industry. So I never had to chase anybody. So if I couldn't get anybody, I'd be like, oh, well.
Keep it moving, right?
Yeah. So Jermaine Dupri's people reached out to me. And I'm like, okay, set up the time. Just said, okay, cool. The time came. I called. He wasn't available. And then they had me waiting on the phone for like 15, 20 minutes. I was like, you know what? I'm not waiting. I hung up. Now, I've heard stories of journalists waiting 2-3 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
The only way I'm going to wait 2-3 hours is if you're paying me to wait 2-3 hours.
There you go.
I'm not doing that, So what ends up happening is that he calls back about 2 hours later. I think the interview was may have been like 2 o'clock. He may have called at 5. And I'm like, hello. He's like, hey, this is Jermaine Dupri. I had an interview. And I'm like, well, sorry, I can't do it right now. He's like, what do you mean? We had an interview today? I said, yeah, 2 o'clock. You're calling at 5. If you can't respect my time, I can't respect yours.
Right.
He said, and of course, he may not remember because who am I for him to remember this? And he was like, you know what? I respect that. And I said, okay, have your people's contact me. And if you want to do it again, we can try again.
Right.
I didn't hear anything after that, but I didn't care either. So, but that stands out because, like I said, I'm not going to wait around for anybody. The only person I'm going to wait around is my mother and maybe my niece. Maybe,
I might wait around for Jesus and my
mother,
dad.
And even Jesus, I might be like, can you give me 1 second? But so I guess those stand out, not in the sense of it being great, but it's just standing out because I've had a lot of great interviews, and I think that the fact that a lot of artists have always told me that I have great questions, so to a point where I'm cool with some of them now because I know with most journalists or most people, they want to be friends with the artist. Listen, I have many friends already. I don't need any more friends. And I think that they appreciate the fact that I don't suck up to them.
Right.
I'll respect them, but I'm not sucking. And I've had this mindset ever since I got in the game. And I think partly because I was lucky enough to go to high school with, now I don't know how old any of you are, if y'all know the names I'm going to mention, but I went to school with Slick Rick, Dana Dane,
absolutely,
Hakeem Woodbine, Changing Faces, Jennifer Aniston, like those people I went to school with. And when like hip hop was first coming up, like one of my best friends was on Video Music Box in New York, which was like the MTV of hip hop. MTV. I was involved with that, so I was already in the circle of some of these. I didn't need to act like anything in front of anybody because I already knew a lot of them, and I started doing parties. So when I started doing parties, it was easy for celebrities to come out because they all knew each other. In New York City. So it was like I've always had the attitude I have now. Because people are like, well, why do you have the attitude? I'm like, I don't know. I don't think it's egotistical. I just think that it's just a matter of I'm going to respect you as much as you respect me. It's that simple.
That's
people like that. People like that, though. They like that.
It's a boundary.
They do.
Just,
even if they don't like it, they respect it.
They respect. There you go. Exactly. Yeah. That's right.
Well, I guess it's my question because
it took you long enough.
I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest out this bunch. So like we need I tried to do my research. I was working, I was rushing. I'm like, yo, I gotta make this interview. The past 2 weeks has been crazy for me. So I'm like, yo. So now I heard you mention Black Planet. I skipped the Black Planet phase, but I was around it. The cousins, the websites, the layouts, the fun that people had around that Black Planet. That's like certain people just don't know. They just don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like they just, they messed up and missed that because that was a time right there, low key. But yeah, so now for the people that don't know, who is Ced? Who are you? Can you give us a summary? I know we kind of late on that question, but I'm one of them. So for the people that see this and watch this, give us a summary of who you are, what you do, what you have done, and where you headed, I guess.
This is one of the worst questions, and I don't mean questions as far as asking, but for me to get, because I never know how to answer it, only because I've done so much.
So much, yeah.
But I don't feel I've done enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try to make it as short as possible, as short as I can make it.
You ain't got to. I just made it sound like that. You know,
I have to, because if I go into who I am, we'll be here till next Tuesday. I don't want to take that chance. I mean, simply growing up in the Bronx, I'm somebody who had an interest in music. I wanted to be Michael Jackson. I wanted to be a singer. I was a singer. I went to school for singing.
Wow.
The hip hop phase caught me at an early age because I grew up in the Bronx, around Bronx River, where it actually was taking place. So my interests varied. And then, like I said, getting to high school and then meeting like these future celebrities where we didn't know it could be future celebrities.
Yeah,
I knew I wanted to get into show business. So I literally got into it. I interned at Motown Records in the promotions department. And from there, like I said, just knowing the people I knew, everything I've done within the industry were things I had never done before, that either someone suggested or I just said, you know what, let me try this. And it worked. I promoted parties. I did that because I had a good friend named Mike Kaiser, who's now the VP of Black Music at Atlantic Records.
Wow.
He suggested that I do parties with one of my friends, Puffy from Video Music Box. We did parties. That worked. Been doing parties ever since. I haven't done a party in years because of the coronavirus, but even doing record promotions, I actually did street promotions for a young artist named Jay-Z, I think his name was. Jay-Z.
Wow. Yeah.
Damon Dash's cousin hired me to do street promotions for his very first record. Coincidentally, hold on.
Go ahead.
Coincidentally, this is Jay-Z's first. What? Can you see it?
Yep. Yeah. Oh, wow.
The very first, and as you can see, it's unsealed.
Yes,
sir.
Gotta
keep
it. I promoted
that in a lockbox somewhere.
Yeah. So doing that and literally, and I'm gonna stick to my guns when I say this, but I'm the reason why Jay-Z is where he's at now, because I helped promote this. So but like I said, but then like I said, rolling around in that, and then one of my friends, his name is Carew Daniels. He actually writes for the New York Daily News now. He suggested I write based on who I knew. No one knew I didn't even know I could write. So it was a magazine called One Nut. The very first interview I did was a new rapper from Brooklyn. He went by Biggie Smalls, but then became the Notorious B.I.G.
Wow.
Very first interview I ever did. Never did an interview ever in my life.
Hey, look, I got my Biggie shirt on tonight.
There we go.
I got my research.
Wow.
Awesome.
And the one thing that stood out in that first interview I did with Biggie, and I can't find the tape or the magazine, one of the questions I had asked Biggie was, where do you see yourself in 10 years? He said, dead. I said, why would you say that? He said, because none of my friends made it past the age of 25. Wow. 9 years later, he was dead. So it was like, it was mind blowing. And I've been searching for the magazine ever since, because I don't know, it could be somewhere in my house, under something that I didn't even think about looking at. But and I contacted the publisher of the magazine, and he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, thanks for helping me. But but that's what started me writing. And there was a website called hook.net at the time that Puffy ended up I was also interns with Puffy. And the direction we both took, you can see who did the right thing. I did. There's a site called hook.net, and that's when I started writing more editorial stuff before I started writing my own website. This website called thecrusade.net, and then the industry cosign was born. And like I said, 17 years later, I'm still doing the industry cosign.
Wow.
And in between those times, I did celebrity basketball games, I did parties. I've done so much where it's like, what do I label myself?
You can't.
Just a person who enjoys what he does. And even to this day, it's funny because people, I was doing podcasts before people knew what podcasts were.
Oh, wow.
On the industry cosign. Stopped doing podcasts. Literally, like 6-7 years later, all of a sudden, podcasts became a thing again. So about 7 years, about 7 years ago, started doing podcasts again, and I did a radio show as well, and I did a portion on Sirius Radio at one time.
Oh.
So everything that I have done, people kept saying I needed to continue doing. For whatever reason, I didn't. I'm changing that mindset because, like, now I'm going to do what y'all are doing as far as doing things like, with the streaming, because it's easy for me to get interviewed. It's easy for me to get the things. And but the thing is with me, sometimes it's just a matter of wanting to do something as opposed to having access to doing it. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. I don't care what it is unless you pay me. But I'm not going to do something just to do it. And like, people have been pushing me. And I said to myself, you know what? Okay, let me do it. And like I have other people interviewing me, so why can't I interview other people? So as far as like the streaming thing. But I hope I didn't veer too much off the question, because that's why I answered the question, because it's a different answer each time.
I already knew where to spit. I already knew it was gonna be long, so I knew what I was doing. I ain't gonna guess.
I knew you were long. I was prepared. No.
I knew it.
Wow,
so
Big
that's why I'm just listening.
That's great. You said Dana Dane. That follow him on social media. You're in the same age group of my sisters. I'm happily 43, so I do know what you're talking about. But that is like a big deal. A question I have for you is, when LL Cool J is doing the Rock the Bells on Sirius XM, and a lot of people called him a sellout for acting and doing all these other things. And again, you grew up in that era where all these rappers from New York are, pretty much now are actors, are doing other things. Do you think that the future of hip hop is changing because of there's so many opportunities now, or you think social media has kind of just like, because anyone right now could put a record out and it could be garbage. I remember, look, my favorite rapper is Nas. So, when the Vibe came out with, the 4 mics and stuff like that, we don't have those things anymore, in my opinion, because of social media. Do you think hip hop is changing? That's probably a 2-part question. I'm sorry. It's changing because of that.
I mean, it's definitely changing, but the thing is, hip hop has always been at the forefront of anything that changes within any culture or genre. And hip hop, this is what I've been saying for like over 30 years. Hip hop is the only genre of music that can be mixed with anything else and still be hip hop. Country, metal, opera, classical, hip hop. If you combine country and R&B, you might be like, well, that's a country or whatever, but it's not one. It's either one or the other.
Right.
Hip hop is going to be hip hop regardless. You're not going to have a hip hop on combined with another genre and hip hop not be mentioned. So, and I say that when hip hop was considered a fad, like I think the people that were involved, and I became involved before the business of hip hop, which is the name of my website, thebusinessofhiphop.com. But before the business of hip hop, people wasn't anticipating that hip hop would be as big as it is. And the way hip hop has bled into everything.
Yes.
Not say everything. I mean, there are hip hop funerals. I mean, fashion, bakeries, anything, movies, anything that if you want to make money, more than likely you're trying to incorporate hip hop somehow. So hip hop is always going to be at the, maybe not at the forefront, but it's going to be the meat of whatever it is, because even with, I mean, look at Lil Nas X with whatever that first song he came out with.
Old
Town
Road.
Yeah, and they tried to
do a remix with Billy.
Yeah, with Billy Ray Cyrus. But the thing was, he considered that a country song, but they were like, no, that's not a country song, that's hip hop. Didn't matter. He made money.
There you go.
whatever. But the reason why I use him as an example because that was hip hop, that wasn't country music.
That's right.
Even though
Mhm.
he tried it, and Billboard and all these other no, it's not. No, that's hip hop. Okay, so it's hip hop. Now we have something else that we claim that put more money. And like I said, everything like 50 Cent with Black Mafia Family and Power and all these other shows and soundtracks, and even with Hamilton on Broadway, everything had this hip hop
That's right.
hip hop influence. And I remember at a time when I first started doing parties where club owners wouldn't rent the club to people like me, and if they did, we had to get $3 million insurance at $1,000 a pop. When down the street, when these white people are partying to hip hop, doing the same exact music, they may even have a black DJ. They wasn't charging them anything.
Wow.
I remember my dad said, I wanted to go to Howard when I graduated from high school. He said, "You're not going down to Howard and party with Puff Daddy and Heavy D." So I don't know who told him what. But he was so serious. I was not going down to Howard. I graduated at 9 and 6. Then he was like, "You're not going down to Howard and partying, single mom." He was like, "You're not gonna leave me with your daughter, and you're going down to Howard and party with Puff Daddy and Heavy D and all them hip hop dudes."
Oh,
like,
man.
what is wrong with
You could have made money.
He
I
knew
was like,
something.
"No, man, I could have because you said that you interned at Motown. So was that the era during Kadar Massenberg? Again,
that was pre-Kadar Massenberg. It was when Motown literally came to New York for the first time, where they didn't even have an office. They had somebody working for Motown in the office.
Wow.
Actually, this is how me and Puff were interns at the same time. MCA was a parent company of Uptown Records and Motown Records.
Andre Harrell.
I was interning for Motown Records when Puff was interning for Uptown.
Okay.
Like the Uptown offices was like in close proximity to the Motown offices, like within the MCA building.
Wow.
So we literally did like mad parties and stuff together. And I literally I tell people I knew Puffy. I don't know Puff now. Not and when I say that, I just mean the fact that like his growth or whatever. But one credit I do give Puff, whenever he does see me, it's always love. And I always tell people that sometimes, like they say, real recognize real. I'm not going to worship you. I'm not going to honor you. I'm going to respect you. I'm going to say hi to you. But I'm like, yo, like, hey, how you doing? I was at a party one time, and it was like a mass of people just swarmed me. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Then I seen Puff and his 78 bodyguards and the rest of his crew.
Oh, wow.
And he gave me a pound, said, what's up, what's up? Kept on walking. Then everybody looked at me like, who are you? When he stopped you to say what's up, I'm like, nobody. Don't worry about it,
Right.
Puff was in the Stacey Lattisaw video. I remember he's teaching her how to dance.
Yeah.
So, again, my sister's in your age group, so
I was wrong. I don't know if y'all know, but I don't like to reveal this, but people usually find out. I actually started out in videos.
Oh, wow.
So they literally call me, well, my friends within the industry, they literally call me the first video hoe. because I was in MC Light's first video, Paper Thin. Moni loves,
she's my sorrow. Wow.
Moni loves Moni in the Middle. Dougie Fresh Cut That Zero.
What?
Several videos, and at the time, like videos were movies. Like nobody could get in videos. Like it was like you had to know somebody who knows somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody. So during that time, like I was on so many video sets where it was just really ridiculous. And to this day, somebody will see the video and be like, "Yo, I think I saw you in the video." but the funny thing is, people say to me, "They're like, why didn't you tell me you was in that video?" I'm like, first off, the video was 30 years ago.
Right.
Secondly, it was a video, not a movie, not But I do understand it from the viewpoint of being involved in something that is part of hip hop history.
There you go. Exactly.
So I've accepted that within the last 3-4 years, and I'm not exaggerating, because I always either denied it or I just was like, whatever. But I had people that's like, listen, you gotta stop that, because people are going to acknowledge you for the things you've done, and that's something a lot of people can't say that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So it's like,
bro. Big or small.
that's in your history.
That's
Embrace
right.
it. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll embrace it, but only if somebody brings it up. I'm not going around telling anybody, "Hey, yeah, I was in that MC Light." No, I'm
Right,
not.
exactly. Yeah. Yes,
That
sir.
is definitely hip hop history though.
Yeah.
Big Ced,
Yeah,
that is like a big deal. Like, because you don't really see too many artists now that are still around from back in the day
Yeah.
at all. You have a lot of accomplishments, sir.
Definitely.
I'm about to throw you two more. You know who
Shoot, ready?
DJ Enough?
Yes.
Yeah.
DJ Enough. I was the first person to ever give DJ Enough money for DJ.
Oh wow.
What?
Come on,
We
man.
all said what at the same time.
Come
He
on,
DJ'd
man.
our first his first party was a party that me, Tuffy, and two of his friends promoted. And the night of the party, we bombed. Like, we had like 4 people show up. And I just named 4 promoters, so that's how empty the party was.
Wow.
But DJ Enough had to get paid, and I went in my pocket. I think I put out like 100, 150. I forgot how much he was paying him, but I gave him the money in my pocket. I was like, you know what, you did what you were supposed to do. We didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And we became instant friends that day. And to this day, because he told somebody that story literally about a month ago on Clubhouse, he had mentioned that, and I was like, wow, that was kind of hot. And D Nice, Club Quarantine.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
He was a rapper. I had his posters on my wall. I'm telling you, I stand girl out for some damn D Nice.
D-Nice is
Tell you.
still doing his thing. Yeah.
Right, Rosin? Yes, I stand girl out for some damn D Nice.
We have a connection that goes back to the MC Light video. Now, for those who don't know, MC Light, the video paper thin. She catches her boyfriend in the subway with 2 girls, and then she disses him, blah blah blah, and then she goes to the next man. I was a boyfriend that she dissed, and then she went to D Nice.
Oh, you
Oh,
got me.
you have to watch that. I'm going to watch that tonight.
And now, years
It's
later,
been a minute since I've seen it.
Years later,
she
D Nice is
is
still walking up with the
wonderful.
girl.
Wow, that is awesome.
Wow.
She is a member of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, which I am a part of. So I'm a big MC Light fan. So shout out to my sorors. Wow.
She did the Emmys the other day.
Huh?
She did the Emmys the other day.
Yeah, she did the Emmys.
Oh yeah.
She did the
She also
Emmys.
does voiceover for BET. She's been doing that for like literally years, and she's also the LA. She's the president of the LA chapter of the Grammy Awards.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He doing that behind the
Emmys
scenes
did
work the
a
past couple of
beautiful
years.
tribute to Biz Markie, and I saw on your website, which I wanted to ask you before you wrap this up. What do you think about the pop-up show tomorrow with the Fugees? You going to the secret location that they're not telling nobody about?
Yes, I am actually.
Yes,
I saw that
I
on
just
the
found
site.
out.
Let me brag a little. Yeah, somebody.
Ooh.
Of course, everyone found out today. I pulled some strings, and somebody's like, "I got you." So
Yes,
I'll be.
sir. Hey, man.
Jealous.
Please let us know how that went. Seriously, wow, we would love to know about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, another part of hip hop history that I'm gonna be part of.
Right.
Yes,
I found out
exactly.
the move.
Wow.
Yeah.
out the
And I
move
learned
that
about that
worked.
on the industry cosign.com.
It
I didn't know
depends
about
on-
that until seriously.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
what? I was like, okay.
Man.
Yeah. So
I would love to be I would love to be a drink and not something on that table, not a
oh,
fly.
wow, that's gonna be off the chain.
Yeah.
That's gonna be
Right.
off the chain.
I think people are taking bets to see what time Lauryn Hill shows up.
Wow.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say that.
Everybody takes it back. Take back.
They may have told her that it's today, so that way she can show up.
That's messed up.
I
man.
mean, really,
Exactly.
to make the shoes here. Big Ced, we have to wrap it up. I'm going to send you a friend request on Facebook. So
I'm
I'm
gonna follow
Rashida,
you.
Miss Garner. There is Sue. There's Rosalind. There's Jay.
Yes,
Thank you from the
yes.
bottom of our heart. We are
Thank you.
definitely
Thank you,
honored to
thank
have
Hey,
you
boy,
on.
maybe we can talk to you longer, man.
Yes,
Yeah.
my goodness, this has been great. Thank you for blessing us today.
I hope I
Seriously.
answered more questions.
Man,
Yes,
you
I'll
did
probably be
great.
I'll probably be all in your DMs later. Like, what about
Yeah, I'm definitely in the DMs later, man. You know,
Yeah.
Really,
I
we are
ain't
going
gonna
to
hold
be
you. I know you're a
No
busy
problem.
man.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Big Ced. We appreciate you. Really, it was
Yes,
an honor to have you on.
Woo!
Thank you.
It's been an honor, bro.
Yeah,
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Keep
Thank
doing
you.
what
Thank
you're doing. You're doing
Big
your
Ced.
thing.
Thank you. It's
Yes.
good to see a brother doing something positive and
Yes.
not focusing on things that are negative, and
Yes.
showing that Black men that are journalists can do the right thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
No pun intended, Spike. But so thank you.
Tune into the industrycosign.com.
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
sir.
Yes. Check it
and
out.
everything. You guys check it out. Big Ced again. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being on and blessing us today. That's
Yeah.
you're dope.
Yes, yes, you are.